Cars submerged and homes flooded. This is Devon, after being hammered by another storm. In Axminster, this van and its driver had to be rescued.
Look at me, I'm shaking because I thought I was going to break down, halfway through that. There's about 100 yards of just pure deep water.
This was the River Otter, which reached its highest level ever recorded. And villages, including Tipton St John, saw schools closed and houses flooded.
I've not lived here that long, so to see it actually flood like this and to hear the neighbours say that this is the worst it's ever flooded. They've seen it flood before, they've seen the cars get stranded, but to see the school underwater and to see so many cars affected, it's just such a shame to see the dismay on their faces.
It was flooded up to where we are stood now, and it was just all the water was rushing down the roads and all the farms being flooded and stuff like that.
It was a bit scary because I haven't ever seen the flood this big, and it was just a bit weird.
This was the nearby village of Ottery St Mary, where strong winds also brought this tree down. Thankfully, no one was injured. In neighbouring Somerset, flooding also closed roads. On this street in Taunton, residents were woken at 5 o'clock this morning to water gushing into their homes.
My house is completely flooded, all ground floor. Everything is completely damaged. Kitchen, ground floor, all floor, to be honest. I feel terrible because I try cleaning everything. I really try. I can't do anything because water coming from underneath the house.
In Cornwall, the sandbags were down, but it did little to protect this street in Helston.
I'm all right at the minute because my house hasn't flooded yet. But obviously the neighbours is flooding and mine's probably another 50 mil away and it's still rising and just no one's come to help.
This is the third major storm to hit the UK so far this year, and many fear it won't be the last. Layla Hayes, ITV News.
Let's get the latest picture now from Jordan Moore in Belfast and Karen Bell in Somerset. Turning to you, Karen, first.
Yeah, Mary, as we've just been hearing, it's been a rotten day for so many residents in the southwest of England, flooding in Cornwall through to Devon, up to where I am in Somerset. And we've still got a danger to life flood warning in place for the Upper Froom River near Dorchester. I am on the Somerset levels. Now, if you're not familiar with them, it's basically like a miniature Netherlands, extremely flat with large canal-like draining channels running through them. Behind me is a pumping station, one of several, whose job it is to pump the water out of the channels and into the nearby river. And you can see staff from the Environment Agency are working through the hours of darkness now to increase the capacity of this pumping station. This region was devastated by floods in 2014. At this time of year in particular, it is totally reliant on mechanisms like this to stay dry-ish. So for residents here, what's going on now is probably deeply unsettling. It shows just how vulnerable the Somerset levels are, particularly because more rain is forecast this week.
I think it's safe to say it's not been quite as bad in Northern Ireland, but it's still been a very wet and a very windy day. How wet and how windy? Well, in Catesbridge in County Down, it recorded its wettest ever day with almost 10 centimetres of rain falling in a 24-hour period. And as you've heard, there have been gusts on the east coast of Northern Ireland of up to 81 miles an hour. That's caused widespread disruption, with the M1, one of the busiest roads in and out of Belfast in Northern Ireland, being closed for a time earlier today. It has since, however, reopened, but that was due to a lot of flooding, which caused a lot of disruption on the roads this morning. And fallen trees and localised flooding has caused delays, with one woman being taken to hospital in Fermanagh after a tree fell in her car. There were a number of ferry services to Scotland from Belfast and Larne that were cancelled today, and Belfast City Airport had no flights flying up until 2 p.m, and 300 schools were closed across Northern Ireland. But I think it's important to say that, like that motorway being reopened, ferry services are due to resume later. There's also been a resumption of those flights at Belfast City Airport, and debris is starting to be cleared as the storm seems to pass. But it's important to note we're not out of the woods just yet. 10,000 people this morning were left without power across Northern Ireland. That was about 4,000 by lunchtime. However, there will still be people tonight who are going home without any power in their homes. There is still a yellow weather warning in place for wind and for rain up until midnight tonight, and there is an ice warning in place from 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
The sheer power of Storm Chandra was felt along the coast overnight. Towering waves slammed ashore, turning the sea into a dangerous and destructive force. By the time the morning commute began, many roads had turned into rivers. This was the M1. In County Fermanagh, a woman was taken to hospital after a tree fell on her car in Lisbon. Her injuries are not believed to be serious. This is a stark reminder of just how treacherous driving became under the amber weather warning. Strong gusts led to thousands of homes and businesses without electricity. At the storm's peak, 10,000 power cuts were recorded by NIE at 9 o'clock this morning. This bridge in Rostrevor in County Down collapsed after being overwhelmed by severe conditions. But the storm's impact didn't stop there. Nearly 300 schools and parks across Northern Ireland were closed. Transport was brought to a standstill. Ferries stayed docked. All flights from Belfast City Airport were cancelled, with Belfast's International Airport also warning of significant delays this morning. Storm Chandra has left more than a mess behind. Bin collections were hit today. Belfast City Council has warned of further disruption this week. The focus now shifts to a major clean-up operation over the next few days.
A multi-agency response to Storm Chandra will continue this evening. People are being urged to take extra care, especially travelling on flooded roads. Katie Andrews, ITV Live.
Emergency services again stand ready to evacuate homes in Monmouth. Storm Chandra has seen roads closed as the River Monnow bursts its banks. It comes just 2 months after Storm Claudia left her mark on the town, devastating homes and businesses in the worst flooding for 40 years. Hart's clothes shop only opened following those floods last Friday. Sian Cursor and her colleagues spent last night lying awake and listening to the rain. They were hoping they weren't going to see a repeat of last November.
After watching the weather forecast last night, we were all worried. Carrie, who's the owner of the shop, she couldn't get in this morning because of the water. So fingers crossed, nothing else is going to happen today.
A few doors down, the shoes and accessory shop lies empty. The carpets still lie in ruins. It won't be open for another 9 months at least. But owner Yvonne Perry says she worries about the local people who are still out of their homes tonight.
There are people in this town that had to be evacuated and are in hotel rooms. And these are elderly people.
And that's still the case today?
Yes, I saw one at the supermarket just recently, and all I could do is hug her. So, oh dear.
It's been challenging for Monmouth, hasn't it?
I feel for others. Not me.
This evening, the river levels are still going up as water continues to speed downstream.
Well, you can see the gate there behind me and the water gushing through from the River Monnow. Now, just to give you some idea, less than 2 hours ago, that water was only trickling through. It was nowhere near here. But as you can see now, I cannot get anywhere near that road because of how deep it is. And it is continuing to rise.
Monmouth has seen flooding in the past, but some say that it's becoming more frequent.
This used to be sort of like a 1 in 5 year event. Now it's every year, and sometimes it's twice a year. Not down the bottom of town. That seems to have been hopefully a one-off, but you never know with global warming what the impact's going to be. So as I say, we've really got to get on top of why we're seeing these extreme weather events and what we can do to be more resilient.
Upstream at Llangia, these have been the scenes on the A465 today. It's barely been passable in places. The River Monnow has swallowed up farmland and left a local church an island. Tonight, residents in Monmouth are hoping they've been spared this time, but there are still a few anxious hours ahead. Hannah Thomas, ITV News.
Before 7 o'clock this morning, the police put out a warning saying to people, do not go out on the roads unless it is absolutely urgent that you do so. The roads were completely impassable in so many areas around Exeter, Mid Devon and East Devon. I want to show you these aerial pictures that we've got of the area around Waycroft Bridge, just the other side of Axminster from where I am now. Several vehicles stuck in the water there, up to their windscreens or even higher. Some of them that have been swept off the road. They've only just been recovered here this evening. The fire service told us earlier that they'd had to rescue people from at least 25 vehicles during the day. So it's just been so hard getting around. I've been speaking to some motorists around the area today who've just been finding it really difficult to get from A to B and actually quite scary out on the roads.
Oh, look at me, I'm shaking because I thought I was going to break down, halfway through that. There's about 100 yards of just pure deep water.
I tried to come down earlier because I was going to work in town in Axminster. And there was a car stuck maybe just over that little bridge bit. And there was another 4x4 dragging it out. So we turned around then.
Just when we thought we were going to be stuck there, phoning the AA, missing the train. But no, we squeaked through. But I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else.
You can sort of feel the weight of the water trying, pushing you really. But obviously I've got a snorkel, so I can sort of go a bit deeper. Because obviously it sort of sucks air from there rather than under the engine.
Cars driving in it. Why they drive in it, I don't know. I'd advise anyone, don't do it. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. When you're in the middle of it and you can't go back, you just keep going forward and you think this is going to stop any minute. Yeah, my advice, gentlemen, is don't do it.
Homes have been flooded too. I was speaking to somebody in Axminster who lives right by the river who described the water was coming up through the floor. They actually had to open the doors of the house to let the water out. They knew it was coming, of course. They'd seen the warnings about this storm that was coming in, but there's just nothing they could do about it.
Whenever you hear about these storms now, you're always thinking, okay, sofas up on chairs, everything out of cupboards, things like that. Like we had pumps, we were sweeping things out, and at one point I was like, look, there's just nothing we can do at this point because it's metric tons of water coming in and you're there with just a broom and a pump and you feel like you're not able to do much against it, really. It's the power of nature.
Thankfully, the river levels have started to fall. The floodwater is beginning to recede. But behind me, the fields between the River Axe and the River Yardley here, just outside Axminster, it's a sea out there. There's so much water, so much mess still to clear up, abandoned vehicles still to recover. There's a lot of work still to do.
Day of mopping up at Tipton St John's garage. Staff had already spent up until midnight last night preparing for the worst, moving vehicles out and placing equipment up on the ramps, only to be back at just after 2 this morning when the Environment Agency flood warning came through.
It's quite heart-wrenching, really. Unfortunately, we do suffer from it. You never get used to it. At 3 o'clock in the morning when you're up to your waist in water, it's not a very nice place to be. The guys are all pulling together, and hopefully sort of 48 hours, we should be back up and running again.
Tipton St John is a village that has become used to flooding, but each time it's different. The last occasion in 2022 saw homes in the centre flooded out. But today they were saved, but only by an inch.
The top of the steps clear, so it did come up very quickly when we were up at 6. It was about a foot or so higher than it is at the moment, which was lovely. So we've had some nice wading, tortoise rescuing in action, one ginger cat that is determined to be outside, but has chosen not to be so far. Not what you want to happen. Tripping electrics. Sadly, one freezer and one washing machine probably lost, and no heating this morning.
Cara believes a flood defence bank built behind their homes may have saved them this time. The River Otter burst its banks earlier this morning. And yet again, Tipton St John's Primary School was surrounded by floodwater. It was just one of dozens of schools that had closed today around East and Mid Devon.
The kids are happy, but it's quite sad. It's happened quite frequently. Yeah, bit of a shame, really.
We came down here in a farm vehicle, and it was like flooded up to where we are stood now, and it was just like all the water was rushing down the roads and all the farms being flooded and stuff like that.
It was a bit scary because I haven't ever seen the flood this big, and it was just a bit weird.
Motorists who'd ventured round the corner here found themselves stuck.
We're told the river level has actually dropped significantly. The drivers of all these cars had to be rescued by the fire service earlier this morning, and that's really been one of their main jobs throughout today.
No journey was easy today, not just because of the rain, but between here and Ottery St Mary, a giant tree had fallen, narrowly missing a cottage. The Dartmoor rescue team were called to help evacuate a family too in Newton Poppleford, but thankfully no one has been hurt. Flood defences had largely protected nearby Ottery St Mary, but only just, while the River Otter's floodplains were tested to the limit, and residents are wondering if any more measures are needed. Richard Lawrence, ITV News.
Today's named Storm Chandra brought exactly what the residents of Stithians dread. Heavy rain here means raw sewage pours up out of the drains onto the streets and this time flooded into homes.
Obviously you get raw sewage sitting on the top. There's lots of incidents where cars are going past and splashing it on people walking past. There's children and everything like that. So there's quite a health issue going on, health and safety as well, obviously. But yeah, I think everyone's just annoyed that South West Water really are ignoring everyone.
The area's local MP, Perrin Moon, says this issue's been going on for far too long and a resolution is now needed.
But they're pulling together, they're helping each other, they're putting out sandbags to prevent sewage water coming into homes. They're being very careful about how they drive through the village, so that they're not splashing this disgusting water everywhere. That community is pulling together. That community is doing its bit. Now it's up to South West Water to do their bit to make sure these changes are made.
In a statement, South West Water said, "We have teams on the ground supporting customers. We're using tankers to remove flows where possible. We are urgently working on a long-term solution here." In Helston, residents of St John's Road woke to rising floodwater.
We're just watching everything flood, so I work for a building firm that's got access to tall hire and stuff, so we've had to do something to try and to stop it. We've just got a puddle pump basically going into the river over the back of the house, but it's not really doing much, but it's better than standing here watching your house flood.
Cornwall Council said their work's limited by the current swollen river levels of the Cobar.
Unfortunately, there is little that can be done until the river levels do subside. We're having that same situation in other locations within Cornwall as well. One or two roads, Bizzo Valley Road, for example, same kind of situation where the river levels are so high that the drainage is unable to function until the river subsides.
Storm Chandra's delivered lashing rain, heavy seas and dangerous gusts of wind across Cornwall. All of it to a county still trying to recover from the last named storms. Grace Pascoe, ITV News.
And it's going to be a busy night as well. I think that is the Environment Agency hard at work with a crane. They are bringing in extra pipes, extra pumping capacity, because it is the performance of the Northmoor pumping station which will determine whether or not the Somerset levels can avoid a repeat of those devastating floods of 2014. But as you say, for a lot of residents in Somerset, it's already too late. They've had a rotten day. They woke up to floodwater in their houses, as Richard Payne now reports.
Not yet a day old, but already the people of Somerset are feeling the effects of Storm Chandra. Residents of Severn Drive in Taunton woke to water flooding their homes and destroying their possessions.
Everything is completely damaged. Kitchen, ground floor, all floor, to be honest. I need to come out, need to be take out everything. You go straight to the bin. I need to dry up, which is taking probably a week. But the problem is, on Thursday is coming more rain. I feel terrible because I try cleaning everything. I really try. I can't do anything because water coming from underneath the house.
Today has been one of salvaging what they could, while questioning whether this was down to Mother Nature or human error. The council are coming in for criticism over claims they failed to clear drains in the nearby village of Rooston, where a large lake has made the centre impassable to all but the boldest drivers in the biggest vehicles. They've had it worse than this before, but are looking on anxiously as the rising water levels creep ever closer to their front doors. 81-year-old Pam only moved in a year ago and may have to move out when the rains return.
Awful. Really terrible. The rain, well, it's just coming down. Just hope for the best that it don't get any higher.
Elsewhere, journeys were aborted no matter how careful the driver. This, the main A358, close to the M5. It's not only people and property taking a hit, but agriculture too. Farmer Rob Case has had to write off months of work after floodwater consumed his crops overnight.
The worst of it was in 2014 when it was really bad. I would consider it's maybe not quite as bad as that, but it's nearly there. And if we have any more rain tonight, I would have said that it's going to get as bad as that, if not worse.
They're taking as many precautions as possible with floodgates and bags to hold back, or at least resist, the worst of the water. But few in Somerset, you feel, will get a good night's sleep tonight, while they wait anxiously for what the next few hours and days will bring. Richard Payne, ITV News, Taunton.
Oh, I'm sure we all feel for everyone who's affected. Karen, what's the council said about these floods?
Well, I spoke to the leader of Somerset Council a little earlier, Alex, and his message was basically call the council. If you've got floodwater in your house, call Somerset Council. They might be able to help you get that water out. They might be able to help you with your insurance claim and also with finding alternative accommodation. You heard in Richard's report there some criticism about drain clearing or lack thereof. Well, I put that to the leader of the council and just have a listen to his response.
We don't do the proactive drain clearance that we would like to do, but we do reactive drain clearance. So if things are reported, please report stuff on our website. We will get the teams out to inspect and make sure it's done. But the position of local councils all across the country is they're not able to do the proactive clearance that we would love to do.
Because of money?
It is the ongoing tight financial situation in councils all over the country that makes that happen.
So quite a stark warning there, isn't it? They just can't afford to clear the drains properly. Sort of very frustrating words for Somerset residents who've got flood water in their houses. And of course the worry continues because more rain is forecast the rest of this week.